there's an app for everything. I think like that's how I do it.
I know. I don't want to pay $20. I think that I found this isn't about watering plants. This is about what is this? What is this podcast about?
Is about what's going on in the internet. There's a lot of creativity out there, and the internet has become this super powerful tool where information flows, but it's crowded, so you cannot have access to everything at once. AI does, apparently, but we human beings are limited, like stuck in time and space. So that said, like, of course, like, we have selected people that we believe they're really unique at this, and it's about how they do it, what's their thinking, how they come up front and lead the way and keep us healthy, entertained. And I think, Marcus, your approach is very artistic, very unique.
Aw. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I mean, that, like, not to say, like, 2 times Emmy Award-winning director, producer, editor, writer, cinematographer. Like, I mean, you name it. And you also own a production company, right?
I forget those things sometimes. It's so weird because you just go and you make your own stuff, and then sometimes you get rewarded, and it's just, you do kind of forget. I do have a production company called Forte Pictures, yes, and just doing a lot of kind of post-production and just producing for other folks. That need to be kind of like, I guess, guided or, knowing how to kind of take a movie from A to Z, from development to delivery pretty much. And so that's my moneymaker. That's my job, I guess, which I really enjoy. It's nice to help other people's projects, and you never know what you're going to get into. But, and there's all these challenges that come with that. But yeah, on the side, or really simultaneously, it's me, Marcus, the director, making documentaries and whatever else is, that comes to mind, I guess. I just started a podcast, I guess, just like you, right? I don't know what I'm doing, but I bought a fancy microphone and emailed some people and pushed record, and it's episode 5 already out this week.
That's amazing. Like, you gotta, like, tell us the name of it, because I do think that your network is somehow special. So you are inviting quite a profiles on your podcast, and
Sure.
and making these conversations live. I think it's something to be grateful of, because one of the takes I got for speaking with other people, journalists, is like, well, like, the job of bringing these voices, up front is quite the job, but you have to be really good at it. And then and
work,
that's
huh?
the thing, like, there's a lot of boring stuff out there. So I mean, I'm sure, like, for the way we started this conversation, for sure yours isn't.
Yeah, you've complimented me 3 times already. I like compliments now. I appreciate it. A question: how did you guys find me? I'm just curious. How did that come about?
So I think your Emmy Award situation has put you in some good spots in the media up front. So I think, like, it was through some articles that really defined you as a very unique filmmaker, and documentaries that has a particular style. And as I was, like, looking at some of, like, your work, I'm like, hell yeah, that's true. That's definitely true.
Nice.
And then when I saw, like, Forte Pictures, I really wanted to have a conversation with you. So now, after you accepted, I was like, yoo-hoo! Like,
Sweet. No, I appreciate it. I love to talk too now. I can talk. I'm a chatty Cathy.
Yeah, and then you're from LA, right? And it seems
I'm from North Carolina.
No,
so
you're
like,
you're in LA, actually. You're
I'm
in LA.
in LA.
You're right.
Yeah. But I'm from North Carolina, where we just be on the porch talking,
Yeah, well, the real conversations, right? We've seen many of those in the movies, right? It's actually real, like, people in the porch talking, like.
Oh my gosh, it's porch culture. Yes, there's nothing else to do except just talk and kind of just share stories and all this. Talk about a whole lot of nothing, really. I think
Hollywood,
it's
Hollywood has made it into that, like, wise moment of life, right? Where your main principal thoughts come to you.
And Hollywood is. I mean, that's a whole different topic. It's funny what Hollywood deems as this or that, but we can get all into that if you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you have very provocative films out there. Chameleon, Actor for Hire, right?
Yes.
Like, those are the things that have captivated audiences and critics alike.
Actor for Hire, yes. I just dusted off an old poster yesterday because I was getting nostalgic. and I just got the rights back for that film. I'm glad you brought it up because it's one of my favorites, and we're gonna re-edit it, I think, and put it back out, which
Oh,
I've never done
really?
before. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting. I'm
It's
not
just
sure
a
if
little,
that's a common practice.
I mean, I think a few people have done it, but I feel like we're not going to completely re-edit it, but it's going to be kind of sucking in like some slow pacing stuff, things that have bothered me. Where 5 years later,
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that? And so, anyways, yeah, I'm excited about reopening that. It's like you spend all this time and money and effort and energy on making these projects, and then once you finally get it to wherever you get it to distribution, and then it has its year or has whatever it has, this run, this life that it has, and then it slowly dies down, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, what else is there? And it just kind of like has a slow, I don't want to say death, but like it takes a big old nap, And so
Yeah.
when you get the rights back, it's like, what can we do? How can we reissue this? And so I know you wanted to get into kind of distribution and marketplace and all that. I don't know if you want to do that right now or wait.
We'll get there. We'll get there. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay. See,
definitely this is
I
like
will
as it
ramble it
flows.
in all directions. We
Please
can
do.
just go
Please
left,
do.
we can go right, whatever you want.
So, I think with your films and mostly Forte Pictures, you made a name for yourself in the film industry. I mean, can you tell us what was that pivotal moment in your life that you starting seeing yourself as a person that's going to be doing films and like be working on this industry?
Sure, yeah. I was washing dishes at the House of Wong in Kinston, North Carolina. And I told my boss, I'm moving to Los Angeles and I'm going to make movies. And he laughed his ass off. He laughed and he said I wasn't going to do it. And I've always been the kind of person where like I get fueled up. I get fired up if like someone says I can't do something or if I'm not supposed to do something. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's kind of the first memory, honestly, of like really, truly being so far away from where I'm at now, but like having such like stubborn kind of certainty of, and having the luck of knowing what I wanted to do at a young age. I mean, I don't think a lot of people necessarily have that or have had that. So, I mean, I had that blessing as far as being very passionate about making home videos and all that stuff, and writing a lot, writing, and reading about how to write. And so, yeah, it was totally like, I'm going to do this way before. Well, it's funny. I was already doing it home video wise before I even knew I wanted to do it. And then my mother was like, you should go to film school. And I said, film school's for nerds, which is silly because I am a nerd. And anyways, then I was just doing it for fun. And I realized like, okay, I've had 20 something jobs already, small paying jobs. They all pay nothing. They all aren't fun. So I might as well just do what I want to do because I'm going to be broke anyways. So I'm going to go do movies. And when you're from North Carolina, like small town North Carolina, nobody has a path for you as far. You don't make movies. That's not a possibility. It's ridiculous, right? You don't do that. People laugh at you. And so, anyways, long story short, I ended up moving to Wilmington, North Carolina, down the street where they had film studios. That's where they shot Dawson's Creek and One Tree Hill and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back in the day, all kinds of stuff. Dino De Laurentiis' old studio. So I was also lucky to have that down the street, and I got on as a grip, as a lighting tech, a lighting guy, and just learn how to like rig a camera, light a set, be safe about things, put a camera on a car, just learning things like that, getting paid $22 an hour. I was learning and I was getting paid, so I wasn't broke. And just followed the tax incentive around, working on big movies, 21 Jump Street, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, tons of random stuff. And I moved to LA, and I was making films and music videos the whole time. I would never work on a movie, 2 movies in a row. I would always try to make sure I take a break and make something of my own. Because I always said to myself, this is not my career. This is just for right now. This is to get into the door, meet people, and understand and observe directors and all this stuff,
Yeah.
But in 5 years, I'm going to stop gripping. And of course, it took 8 years to get out of the business. But anyways, it got me to LA. I had money, and I had confidence and some knowledge as far as how to be on a film set and how to, just run a film set. And you just keep making stuff. And that led me to, it was hard. It's hard when you try to make stuff outside of Los Angeles because the opportunities, I think, are just they're less than. And if there are opportunities, it's kind of boring corporate, like weddings or regional commercials, whatever. But once I got to Los Angeles in 2011, it's like, oh my God, like I went on Craigslist because Craigslist was like super useful at the time. And I just remember seeing all these ads for all these music videos and all these directors needed. And I'm like, oh my God, people are hiring directors. Oh my God, they got $2,500 for their music video budget. Oh my God. So anyway, just start getting into that scene.
Wow.
And just kind of just like, I took on a bunch of music videos for pretty much free. I actually like found the artists that were LA based that I wanted to work with. And then I emailed all of them as non-spammy as I could. And said, hey, I'm just trying to make your music video. I'll do it for free. Let me do it for you. And they had like 300,000, 400,000 YouTube likes per video. And I got 5 of those. And that's what kind of pushed me into that next level in 2013 to where I was making music videos for like a G-Eazy and Aloe Black and Interscope and Atlantic Records and stuff. And once those record companies screwed me over, I said, let's. I'm trying to give you the whole bio in like 2 seconds. That's when we made Actor for Hire. I had made my first feature in Wilmington.
That's when I see.
Yeah, kind of like, again, like I don't like being told what I can't do, or I don't like being mistreated, and I don't like to take things, like, I mean, I'm a very nice guy, but I don't like to be under, what do you call it? What's the word? Like, undersold or unappreciated or taken for granted. And so out of spite, I guess, I said, let me go make a movie. And, you can't just sit there. You have to go and pivot and make moves. So we made Actor for Hire. It was my second feature. I had made one in Wilmington before where I cut my teeth with a bunch of friends, and that was fun. But, it's all about just like making moves, pivoting. If it ain't working,
real grip, right? And real grip, right? It sounds like, nothing is going to keep me away from this industry, right?
I don't know if it's like a mixture. I think it's a mixture of how much I love it, like watching movies and making movies in the process, and also just how stubborn I am. You know what I mean? In good ways, I think it's like, you're just having a determination and understanding that life is short. It's all the cheesy things, but life is short, and the only way you're going to lose, again, very cheesy, is to not do anything. Like, why would you do that? Why would you not do anything? Like the clock is ticking. Just try to see what you can get away with, because fear of failure makes no sense to me. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely. And like looking at, like right now, going through all that, story and looking in the past, it feels different, right? It's like, would you ever go back? And like for majority of stories, like, my goodness, exhausted. Exactly. Like,
I mean, just telling the story, I hear myself talk. I'm like, oh my God. Sorry.
But sorry for nothing, because it's a good reminder for everybody who's in that spot. Is like, I feel like I'm not getting the orbit. Like, I feel like I'm keep trying, and it's like against every single current power. So what's going on with it? To me, is it the industry? It's like, no, it's time. It takes time.
Yeah, I think that's such a huge linchpin conversation to have at all times with people, because you spend so much time. I mean, I have, and I think a lot of us, most of us, all of us have experienced what it is to not get that door open or not get what you want. And it's like it becomes a question of like, how long am I going to do this before I stop, or how long before I can't take it anymore, or whatever. And I remember, and I always ask filmmakers on my podcast, like, tell me about the moment where you got into the big festival, and how that felt, after X amount of time not getting in. And it's just all like always exaltation, like always just joy. But I think what you really need to focus on too is like when you're in that kind of ditch or you're not getting rewarded, to know that you just have to keep going. You do have to just keep going. And it's hard to put a lot of work in and not get rewarded. And I know how it feels to kind of start getting a little angry about that, or a little bitter, and then you realize you're entitled. You're more entitled. Looking back, I was a little more entitled. Like I thought the world owed me something. I thought I was going to be. Give me that. I need that. I want that. Give me my recognition. But really, it's like, I mean, you have to just be patient and put it in. And after kind of realizing a tough conversation with myself of basically saying, this is really hard. Do I still want to do this no matter what? Do I still, if I don't make any money and if I don't people don't see my work, do I still want to be in the ditch and just keep making films? And I told myself, yes, okay, I'll do it, fine. And as soon as I got over myself and just continued to kind of shift and pivot again and see a different viewpoint of my work and take it and then also become more of a professional in that way and less entitled as an individual, everything fell into place. Everything fell into place. You hear about these stories where like the hardest part is like right before the reward comes. And that was my experience.
I like to call that moment the orbit, when you get in the orbit and things just happen. Like you're just around that vibe. Like and like, you know, I think an actor for hire is praised for its originality. Like you mentioned, it was like the first movie out there. Like, how did it felt? You know, finally get to that moment. And were you nervous? Did you have a lot of pressure? You know, it's like, okay, finally I get there, and right now it's like.
I guess you always have those first day of school feelings where it's like the anticipation of something, you know, whether it be like first day of filming or a Q&A for a film festival or before this podcast started. But it's like I find myself once I'm in the situation, I'm most comfortable. You know what I mean? Because if I'm excited, then that's what I want. I want to be in this excited place at all times. And I think, you know, making a film, Actor for Hire, for example, like I was very excited. I finally found a little bit of money. I had this really fun story. It was I saw it all so clearly, you know what I mean? And it was all my friends that we worked that I casted and wrote these parts for. And God, it was heaven. Like for like 2 months, honestly, it was like every day, just like filming. LA was our playground. You know, it's just a set, you know, and it was fun. So I don't think I was nervous as much as I was just very excited and like trying to grab a hold of it as hard as I could because I knew we had something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So LA is almost like the dream for every, you know, person. That,
LA.
Exactly. That like wants to seek this type of career and like this type of professional life. So that means a lot of competition, right? So you right now in LA, like you are a name. Like we're so honored to have you on this podcast and like you know to get to talk to you. What do you think of LA in general? Like you interact with a lot of creativity and creators and people. Like what's going on? What's the vibe now that was then, and how do you think it's progressing?
First thing that comes to mind when I think of LA and is just it's a beautiful. Okay, look, I'm going to say the positive first. It's a beautiful place, inside and out. Honestly, as far as it's obviously beautiful, all this exterior, sun's shining, birds are chirping, a little too much outside, but also you're surrounded by excited people, artistic people, very creative, very talented people, and so it's like. Okay, if you want to be comfortable and feel good about yourself, then maybe stay in the small pond and be a big fish. But like, what is that going to really get you? A regional commercial at best, a furniture commercial? I don't know. You know, so like to be excited and to get into like the, you know, to get into the big leagues and see where you fit in. And then of course, having reality checks along the way and realizing, okay, this is what I can be better at. This is what I can be better at. And being hungry to get better, because that is going to be the case. You can always kind of get in the gym and work on something, you know, or whatever, get in the lab. So I think being, you know, people are products of their environment, and being a product of LA makes you a better filmmaker, and it makes you a better artist overall. It makes you a better a lot of things, you know. And I also think, you know, LA has it's a reputation for sure, good and bad. But I think overall, I mean, I've been to like 40 of the states, you know, and I've been here and there. And even though I can kind of find things to complain about with Los Angeles, traffic, West LA, people are not nice, whatever. Nowhere is perfect.
I think at some point, Elon Musk had like a project for a tube in LA or something, and that did not really took a...
Oh yeah, when he went to Austin, I think from LA to Austin.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, he can keep that 108-degree weather.
That's for sure. Like Austin can be unbearable at times. Like I was there at a conference once, and I'm like, "What is this?"
No, thank you.
It's like the desert, but in a nice way. But LA has a vibe. It has the ocean, and like. But don't you think? Yeah. Some of these creators sometimes like get a little they lose touch with reality and like and they get too hooked up. I know like it's hard for you to say from your perspective. I was trying to get a sense from your view and perspective of like, you know, there was also a lot of people who failed in LA.
For sure.
And
But the thing is, it's kind of like, again, whatever. I'll stop saying this after this time, but it is cheesy because we've all heard it before. But I think you only fail when you give up and you stop doing it, right? Because nobody sees all the failures. They only, most of the time they only see the success, that you put out.
Yeah.
And like a lot of it does lead, like you have to go through this gauntlet. Every film you have to go through this unseen, there's going to be these ups and these downs, and it's almost it's weird if you don't have them at this point where it's like you have to expect it. But it's all about just getting to where you're going to end up. You get in where you fit in, Even though you want Sundance, you might get Santa Barbara. Even though you want Netflix, you might get PBS and like get on 200 million viewers worth of airlines. You know what I mean? It's like, that's cool
It's beautiful.
too.
It's beautiful.
So you just got to stay with it, and you got to pivot. Again, third time I've said this, you got to pivot. You got to like think on your feet and make moves,
I mean, even for those that are not in LA like myself, like we're really grateful that LA is there because, it exists. It is like, as you said. So as being a product of the environment, plus the, extreme quality of storytelling, what is that moment that you walked out of your home and you're like, okay, I'm in LA, and like something happens.
Oh, wow.
Like, something happens, like, yeah, for sure I'm in LA.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's
the first moment where I was like, this is LA, right?
Yeah.
I would say the first time I visited, for the first week I was out here, I was staying with my friend just to scope it out. And I don't know. I mean, my first memory ever was like going to, I didn't take the plane. I just wanted to be like dramatic and take the train from New Orleans. So I did that, and I came out of Union Station, and my first impression was sunshine and excitement and all the landmarks, that the Hollywood sign, and it's just very, very, very exciting and inspiring. And but the moment for me, I don't know. I mean, the first thing we did was go to Runyon Canyon and get this like wonderful bird's eye view of the entire city, and I just couldn't believe how beautiful Los Angeles is. And like, how did no one tell me this? Maybe I'd been watching the wrong LA movies, or maybe it was just like all like the crime movies that you're used to seeing. But I don't know. The moment, maybe it was when Tom Green was at Barney's Beanery in Burbank. At the end of that trip, and I was like, oh shit, there's Tom Green. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is real. This is real.
This is amazing. I remember when I was in Chicago, and I went for a movie, and like me, I grew up in Europe, like, and and like, it was like this very, I'm not sure, it was like one of these action movies that like happens in a city, like, and buildings fall down. I'm not sure which Marvel movie was, but it was one of those. So I was in Chicago, and I walked out of the movies, and I'm like, I feel like I'm still in the movie, for how like buildings and everything looked like.
Yeah.
Like where in Europe, you walk out, and you're like, I know, I was in the movies. It doesn't look anything like it. And
that reminds me of, I watched this movie called Melancholia one time. This Lars von Trier
the
movie.
Moon. Oh yeah, like that movie getting closer and closer.
God. And I was in Austin, Texas, watching it at the Violet Crown downtown. Anyways, I watched it by myself because my whatever reason. And I come out of the theater after watching that depressing, really great, but like, messed up movie.
The title says it all.
It really does. It's a great movie, but I don't need to watch it again. Anyways, I come out of the theater, and like it's like super moody, and like there's like wind everywhere, and there's everything's short of like a planet encroaching on ours. And it's crazy to like come out of a movie sometime, or in that moment, and then kind of almost like feel like you're still in the movie. It's very what is the word? It's very disarming, really.
Yeah, but, we got that moment. So I'm sure like Melancholia achieved exactly what he wanted, to put you in that spot, and like
A plus filmmaker for sure. He knows what he's doing.
I mean, so like getting back to you, 2 Emmy Awards. What does that? How does that make you feel? Like it's achievement. It's.
Yeah, it's validation is the big word. Like
mostly for like the people on the porch, like still talking about it, right?
Well, so speaking of the porch in North Carolina, the first Emmy was won with a film based in my hometown of Kinston, North Carolina, and like I was making feature films, narrative fiction, trying to make these movies with little budgets, and my hometown's basically we always were known for basketball. But when you're from somewhere and when you're so close to something, you don't really see the gold in it sometimes, right? But then I don't know what happened. I just was like, wait a minute, there's another draft pick coming up. This story is special. Like my hometown is special, actually, not just because I'm biased and I think it is because I'm from there, but no, it actually is. We have the highest NBA draft picks per capita in the world, but at the same time, we have the highest crime rate in the state of North Carolina. So we have a contrast there where we can play with this story, this juxtaposition, and the spectrum, and so I went and got a camera and called up my documentary friend and asked him some tips and tricks, and went to go shoot this documentary. Just out of the love of my heart. I'm not making money on this thing. Maybe we can get it on PBS. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just going to go do it. And long story short, I got on PBS and submitted for an Emmy, and we won. We won. And it was during the pandemic. So
but I'm not.
I mean, you just don't know until you get to the other end, I guess. You don't know what the competition is. You don't know what the chances. And that's another thing of like, you just have to go for it because you don't know, but you don't need to sell yourself short either, which I think we're all guilty of, right? We all have that imposter syndrome thing. And it's like, but you never know when you like throw that dart, it might hit bullseye or somewhere around it, right? Metaphor. But yeah, how does it feel? It is 100% joy. It's amazing. But that's the nomination.
Well,
when you get the nomination, no matter what, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be an Emmy-nominated director at least. Nobody can take that away. And then when you win and you have a trophy that you walk by when you go make coffee in the morning, it feels good. It feels really good. Yeah.
Well deserved, I think, because there's a whole legacy of hard work behind those trophies. So I think, even with Forte Production, from what I've read and I saw, like you guys are pushing the boundaries of traditional filmmaking. What is that? Because there's a lot of evolving techniques in Hollywood and filmmaking. So how does that translate how would you define the style that represents you, Marcus, after all this time?
Well, I think there's two answers. Like one, the style would be, it always needs to be grabbing and to the audience. You have to have. I've always been interested in like, how do they make it look like a movie? You know what I mean? And that was the first question, one of the first questions I had early on, and I didn't know what it meant really, but like, how do you make it look cinematic? And I think taking that and understanding how to do that with being a lighting person and just filming and framing over the years, taking those cinematic techniques along with storytelling, cinematic kind of narrative feature storytelling techniques, and moving them over to the documentary form, and all of us, because why not? Why can't you? And then all of a sudden you have these documentaries that don't feel like, this is for example, that don't feel like journalism or information. Like they're real people, which I mean, authenticity is like the key ingredient when you're a viewer to get connected to the thing. But then you're also putting it in these like cinematic like structures and stuff, and how you're also framing it. Making it a film as much as possible, but while also knowing that it's real life. I mean, I think that combination is like so exciting and so effective. And as far as the second answer to your question, I think the marketplace and distribution and all that, I think it's all about, again, it goes back to like paying attention, looking around, and looking at the marketplace and seeing what's happening. And it's like documentaries are healthy right now. The marketplace is healthy, and narrative fiction, feature films are not. And even though that's what got me into this business and like the desire to want to make features, you can't just keep like hammering away at something that's not producing results. And so anyways, I figured out a way to shift into a healthier version, the documentary. And then I realized like, oh my God, I love documentary more than I love narrative fiction. And I'll spare you the reasons why, but it's the same thing that I was going for, except for now I don't have the major concern of, does this feel real or not? Because it is real. You know what I mean? So
I see.
Anyways, yeah, that's I think it just comes from like being excited and staying excited, my style, and also just like the quality of the movie is like you just stay in it. You stay in that ditch and you keep working until you feel like it's as good as it can be, And then you send it out into the world, and you hope and you pray, and you also get creative with like trying to get it, into, having a vision for where it can have distribution, which I think a lot of people have visions for their story or a certain component, a certain phase of the filmmaking process, but you got to have a vision too of like, where do you want this to be? Before we even shot Belle Vie, this picture here behind me, it's from Belle Vie. Before we even shot anything, I'm like, hey man, I think we should just film something and then maybe we should submit it to the local PBS channel here in LA. And then like 2.5 years later, like I emailed them 5 times and I'm like, you're taking this. Here's your next thing. Take it. And then they took it. And then that also gave us the second Emmy because I knew that if we broadcasted with them, we'd have a chance to submit to LA area Emmys. And we did. And we got it. And they didn't. It's just like, you got to know what you want. You know what I mean? And then figure out how to get it.
So, you said like you want to spare us, like why documentary of this angle your attention? But like from somebody like me that's like, haven't like, I don't have a background in filmmaking. Like,
yeah,
I think that a good film, documentary, movie, whatever, the way it's produced, like it's what we call teletransportation. Like I forget I exist.
You out of it. Takes you out of the yeah. Totally.
I forget I'm watching a movie. I'm like totally in the plot and like
forget about your problems or whatever you're thinking about that day.
Yeah. Some science call it numbness, but for me, I think it's like a high engagement because there's some movies that are so inspirational that after you watch it, like it gives you this pump, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it, like and that's magic. That is like being a magician if you are in the industry, having the chance to do so, right? So
yeah. I think it's a sense of community and socializing. I mean, even though it's just you potentially watching that movie, you're connecting with these characters if it's well done, right? Well written, well acted, or well whatever. Like, and so it's got this like cathartic like experience and like emotional pull for you, right? Because you can forget about your hard day, or if you want to wind down, like as soon as you get wrapped into a story and you feel for a character, oh my God, it's like. It feels good. It feels healthy. It feels like, it feels like it is a very like medicine for your soul if it's done right, which is crazy how powerful the form is. Yeah,
absolutely. So like, one of the things that I feel strongly is like, there are not enough documentaries out there. Maybe I don't have enough access to it, right? Like, because you scroll and it's all the time, like, same thing through the streaming platforms being popped at you. So the good ones, I actually find out through my friends that like they end up recommending it and like they're hidden somewhere.
Yeah, sure.
How like what's the process of picking a good story? Like, how, did they come to you or you go to them?
I love this question. I think it's all about, for me, my experience is like writing a bunch of screenplays forever. And then also like using kind of storytelling. Storytelling's always been the priority, whether it's a music video or a feature film, a short film, commercial, whatever, telling a joke, it's like beginning, middle, and end. And basically, and then you start studying more story forms and like kind of what works at more advanced storytelling. And so anyways, I got to the point where I can see real life and I kind of have in my mind, what is the bare minimum kind of ingredients list that I need from this real situation for me to feel like it's worth pursuing. For example, like Belle Vie, very soon I realized it was a hero's journey. Like as far as like, there's like 8, whatever you want to say, this is subjective, but there's 8 main beats. And like the first half of that story is going to be kind of introducing a character and, then introducing a conflict to that character and then seeing him getting thrown into it and like how he deals with and adapts to that conflict. And so I knew that Vincent, before I even shot the film, I had asked him, how you doing? What's going on with the business during the pandemic? He's owning a French restaurant. He said, oh, we're doing okay. We're about to build a patio in the back and we're trying. And I already knew right there, my storytelling brain, I knew we can always do an introduction. You can always introduce anybody. And he's a great protagonist, so that makes that work. You're going to kind of pull people in with that initially. But then you can't just sit there and just say, okay, we're hanging out with this person. It's like, no, you need to deliver conflict, put them in a conflict that challenges them. And then beyond that, you have them adapt to that conflict. And then once you have the first half of a story, usually you can figure out how you need the last half to go because it's, it could very likely just be the opposite of your first half. But either way, like, knowing that I have that many ingredients for, say, a hero's journey in that situation, I'm like, oh, we're going to be at least good. And then we ended up being great because, it developed well. But
yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
And then there's times where like I have I've been following around this private investigator for 2 years, my next documentary, and it's
Huh.
great. But it took me up until 2 weeks ago to realize like what that structure needs to be, and it's just like I don't know, it's always different, I guess, but the instinct also tells you like, okay, you love this, keep doing this, you'll stick with it.
So
But
you know,
yeah, you
like
got to be
now,
stubborn.
you gotta be stubborn. Now, like you made me think about a very cheesy question, which is like, hey Marcus, if you have to have been the reason that one of a movie, what like, if you have to put yourself on the backstage of a movie having been created, which movie would that be? That you were like, I want to be part of it. I want my name to be on it. Like, I would
Ooh,
have loved to know what happened while it was produced.
wow. Oof, wow. Let me think about this. It's such a hard question. I mean, it's a good
Don't worry,
question.
we're gonna cut the silence in here.
I mean,
We'll edit the silence and the thinking. So take your time.
dun, 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 dun,
You
dun.
know, in LA, like
Let's
there's
see.
plenty of good movies, and
I mean, my brain goes to like, even like one of my favorite filmmakers, Steven Soderbergh here. He did this film Out of Sight. He did Ocean's 11. I don't know. I feel like Ocean's 11 would be kind of something that pops in my head. Um,
yeah, like mostly
you
like
know?
I would have loved to know like that technique that they used or how exactly that happened. You know, like what like
Yeah. Well, that's the magic of being on film sets too, and working on film sets and being around not just, of course, like big actors that you see in a magazine. That becomes the least interesting thing once you get on a film set. But like being around, big cinematographers, like how are they making it look that way? And then it's almost like getting that knowledge and understanding that magic trick and knowing how to
I
do that
see.
magic trick. Do you know what I mean? Like that
Yeah, does that
that
make you sad? Like in my case, I don't want to
no,
know.
it makes me
Like,
it makes it if you take it down off its pedestal, do you know what I mean? Which is
yeah.
valuable as far as, okay, now you don't have to worship this or
Oh, I
them. You
see.
can now be one of them, or you can now enter and be at that level. You know what I mean? So, but as far as like kind of just, it's two different things. Watching a movie and making one, or being there when it's made, is two different experiences. But having seen, like, I don't know why I say Ocean's 11, because of the cast and my favorite director, and it's fun, and also the way he shoots. It's quick and boom, boom, boom. I don't know. Like, it'd be cool to just be there, I would imagine, and see. But I know that like later on today I'm gonna have a better answer to this question, but I don't have it right now.
I think like the one that comes first is like the greatest one because it comes out of a heart. So I think like
Sure.
you shouldn't be overthinking this.
Okay.
Right
Yeah.
now I would like to talk with the wise Marcus,
Oh my God.
where we like distance ourselves from like talking about you, and like you've been doing movies and like right now with Forte Production to Emmy Awards, like I will keep mentioning this to brag about like the fact that I'm talking to you, but
Thank you.
there is something happening in the internet. Like as I said, a lot of creation, independent filmmakers. Have you seen any like? Do you think it's favorable or not to the industry? Like, how do you see that this crowded internet with so much content
Yeah.
out there, for one, can make its place on it?
See, and
I
I
mean,
thought
it's not
about
like
this.
we're like, yeah,
I thought about this question last night and this morning actually, because I was looking back at you guys' notes, and I think you can go so many ways with this. You can go positive or negative or whatever. But I think first of all, yes, we're in a new world. We've been in a new world where like you have to fight for attention. Like you got to be grabbing. You have to grab attention in 3 seconds. 2 seconds now. It'll be 1 second next week, and it's like so and that translates throughout. Like whether you're have a Instagram blog or making a movie or whatever. I think that it's good in that we have so many options to get our movies available to people, or even whatever. Like the you can deliver a product to people directly now. The problem
yeah.
is saturation, where how do you stand out?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where you just like I ain't trying to hype nobody's book or anything, but even just this book right here, I've been reading this. I don't know if this.
Okay. Yeah,
And
yeah. Hook point.
so, Hook Point, how to stand out in a 3 second world. And it's good. I mean, this dude's legit. And it's just about kind of like knowing how to grab people's attention and not mess around with their time. It's like almost like a,
Yeah, this fast times, like we
yeah,
want
and
it
it's
now,
annoying.
fast, like
Yeah. But I don't
But
think
with
you have to
that,
sacrifice quality with,
no,
you know.
absolutely not. So like for me, it happens like a lot of one of my favorite movies like happens not to be available on the streaming platforms, and some
Okay.
of them I found out through my friends. Is like, and it's the ultimate dream of every filmmaker to end up on a streaming platform, or like is the dream to go independent but still be found by people, right?
This is a good question. I think it depends on who you ask, and I think even filmmakers don't know anymore. I mean, because I want a Netflix deal, but at the same time, like I don't fully respect what Netflix this
Exactly.
stands for, which is like they stand for like numbers and algorithms and formulas. They don't stand for whether this is in this. And it's you get in subjective territory where like something's good or not. But I think curation is definitely important, as far as like Mubi or Criterion Channel, or even Apple in a way, they do have, or a great film festival, for example, right? They have a certain specific set of curation kind of guidelines, like a vibe and like an identity, right? They know who they are and they know what they want to represent. And I think it's Netflix. They're all about keeping you on their site. Like all these streamers, their goal is to keep you on their streamer. The more time
Yeah.
you spend on there, the more money they get. And so they don't. If that means putting on reality TV show number 28 with I don't know what, then they don't care. So I think as a filmmaker, where do you want to be? I think whoever's representing the most. I think for me at least, I'll answer for myself. I want to have some sort of sense of prestige, wherever my stuff ends up. Like I don't mean
see.
like I don't want, I'm not fancy pants. Like I'm not like trying to get super fancy, but I just want to be somewhere where like I'm amongst other great films,
Oh, I
and
see.
you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
that's the value of getting into a film festival, a big film
So
festival.
So, like, would the streaming platforms provide like a validation tone for streaming the movie or all sorts? Because right now, like, one of the feelings I have is that like I'm still I constantly get fed with content that not it's entertaining, but it's not quality. Will entertain me, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but
Which is
I'm not.
okay.
But I'm not necessarily like what as like whoa, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I get more of that like I would call like uh easy, like something like it's been made on the way and
Sure,
but there's a lot of quality out there that don't get to and I think
sure.
people's taste it varies in a way that like there's so many communities and people are becoming so sophisticated with all the knowledge that is on the internet that their demand is also becoming a little more intellectual and like provocative of what you're giving me and I
Yeah.
still get like all this like movies about Australian farmer and like a winemaker like oh my god they all end up together how nice and I'm like it's good 1 2 3 but like a whole collection all for me and suggested so it's interesting. I'm not saying like it's bad or wrong. It's interesting to see where it's going. I know like there's some numbers. I was in a YouTube dinner once and like I was surprised to see how much like people feel their users feel like there's a certain sense of freedom, but the creators on the other side are like extremely unhappy for like how much they end up making and
Well, see,
how's that
that's where it's too. I have to jump in because it's like that's where it's too two pronged conversation where like you have money that you can make. It's like the money you're making versus, well, not versus, but alongside, separate of the validation and like maybe the prestige or the recognition you can make. I think I've learned a few years ago that like as soon as I treated them like two separate things, I felt better off. Do you know what I mean? And we started this conversation where I was saying I make my money providing a service to people that need it when they need it, which is post-production and production, seeing people depending on, A to Z, depending on what letters they need that week or whatever. But my passion is to tell is to direct like my own films. And I think I don't make a lot of money. I don't see a lot of return. We spend more than we make back on these films. And I think I think a lot of even bigger films are experiencing the same thing all the way from the top to the bottom. And so my point is, do what makes you happy, be responsible about it, but also go make your money too. And if you can have them overlap in the same world a little bit, then fantastic. I would like to do both at the same. I would like to make my passion projects and get paid for them. Maybe I'll figure that out next. But right
yeah
now,
so
it's like it's separated. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. And for
So
me, it's
yeah,
like how much that is supposed to be your job, then like, the internet getting its head around and like building the right algorithm to prize people that, like actually put all this effort and entertain all this audience out there. So I think it's somewhere in between, right? That's why for me, Marcus, like I think the most admired profile of people right now out there is like filmmakers, creators that like put so much effort, and you just said like the it's not like you take back much, but you know,
Yeah.
you said something about you feeling very fond of documentary filmmaking right now, and my question was like, are you not concerned about what's going on with the internet with the censorship, that if you say something that it's not appropriate or wherever, like you taking
Mm.
off the platform?
I um I haven't experienced that firsthand. I feel like you mean cancel culture kind of pretty much?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't agree with certain sides too hard, or I'm sorry, not enough, then yeah, you can be ostracized for sure. I do think it's died down a little bit. I think we've all kind of gone the back a little bit towards the middle, a little bit,
Yeah.
versus like 3 years ago, it was out of control. You know what I mean? Like I don't believe in extremism on any of any way. Do you know what I mean? It's like have some
Mm.
balance, you know. So I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not too. I don't. Uh, maybe it's different for me being where I'm at. I don't know, but like I haven't seen too much issue with it. But I don't know. It's like I think we're okay. I think we're better than we were with that stuff. But yeah, 4 years ago, you can't even say anything without somebody hating on you. You know what I mean?
So you know, I think like Marcus, like you've had a like you were in LA, like the environment makes the person. You said that, and I really liked it. That's why I'm like echoing it. What's the best advice that was given to you throughout your career that like literally, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 10, like you mentioned, Diaz, um, you know, don't, if
You want
it's
me to
more
go?
than one, it's better.
Oh well, look. I mean, the thing that popped into my head as soon as you asked the question, I was on this show called One Tree Hill. It's one of the first things I ever worked on in Wilmington. This kind of circles back to the origin story. And there was a dolly grip named Dave Merrill on that show, and he was like the big dolly grip. He's the guy that pushes the camera, you know. And he did Kill Bill, and like he's like the man. Anyways, he was very supportive. This guy with a big handlebar mustache and a coffee cup he brought to set every day. You know what I mean? This guy straight from like the 80s and 90s. But anyways, he told me, he was like, after a week of working with me and hearing me talk and stuff, he was like, I would never hire you as a grip. And I'm like, why not? And he said, because you should be directing stuff. You're not a grip, you're a director. You should be making. I'm like, well, I'm trying to work on set so I can get knowledge and meet people like you, you know, and I need to pay bills, bro. I got rent. And he's like, no, I get that. He's like, but also like, go make stuff. Go find every business on this street and then the next street over and the next street over and make them a spec commercial and put it on a DVD and put it in their mailbox. And like the point is, like, he was right as far as you just go make stuff and throw stuff at the dartboard, you know, like just go do what you want to do and then continue to get better at doing it by doing it. You know, Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours, you're going to be good at it if you just keep doing it. So
Yeah.
that's the advice. I feel like just do it. Nike. I mean, it is though. It's just like, just do it. Stop talking.
Yeah. You
Do
know,
it.
like, exactly, because I think, like, the doing part, it gets also related with, like, it's like a brain blockage. Like, you get so much into your own head that,
Yeah.
like, you almost, if you feel like you need a whole different setup for you to completely
We
detach and, like,
sabotage ourselves
yeah,
sometimes.
lose that consciousness about, like, what you're about to do. Just go ahead, do it, and let yourself go instead of like
Yeah.
implementing the stiffness and
Yeah,
expectations
just
and
do it. But I mean, there's like this whole like basket of things that come with it. Sometimes it's like where you can kind of
yeah,
you overthink it, like you said, and then you can talk yourself out of it. You can have this fear of failure. You start thinking about all the things that won't work. It's like,
yeah.
no, don't do
Like,
that.
it's crazy because like if I have to look back and like think about all the things I've done, and like sometimes when I picture them, it's like, was I crazy? What on earth? Like if you put me on that
Oh my
position
god.
again, I would be like, no way, right?
But you proud
But
of
it was,
yourself though for doing it?
I mean, more than proud. I'm happy because, like, you know, like that's where it gets you in life, and like I'm
Sure.
really happy where I am today. But you know, when you want to follow unconventional paths, like you gotta expect like something that it's not necessarily written in the books, or like society not necessarily like can be so content like or familiar with your situation, and you just gotta go. And if it's a lonely path until like you sort of find yourself, then understanding like you don't have to stop and like think, oh my god, it's so lonely out here. It's like keep going,
Sure.
and the thing,
Yeah.
yeah, like, I believe that I mean your journey is very impressive because I don't feel like it was a, like, you know, the grip that you had, it's inspiring, and the
Thank you.
work. And so, like you said, like the most simple words perhaps that you said, we cheesy or this, are the most valuable. It's just like we don't stop and really think about the simplicity on it and apply it. And the hypocrisy is there for even myself, like I can give a lot of advice, but like how much I apply for this that I give.
Well, look, there have been times too. Thank you for the nice words. There have been times too where I've went for stuff and then in retrospect wished that I would have taken a little more time before I pushed go. But that comes with the territory. There's no perfection. Also, accepting the fact that there is no perfection. Do you know what I mean? Like there will be mistakes or whatever. There might be times where like 1 minute you feel good about it, the next minute you look back and I wish I would have done that. But that's gonna happen. But the thing is, I'd rather regret stuff like that than like regret doing nothing at all. Because time is the gift. We're already here. We're blessed to be here, and we're blessed to do stuff that we're blessed to be able to even have a chance at pursuing something that we're excited about. You know what I mean? So it's just like, God, it's just getting on my nerves right now. I'm getting on my own nerves right now. But I do believe this. It's like, just like be excited, stay excited, and just see how much you can get away with, with the time that you have, right? And have good intentions. Hopefully, that's a good thing too.
So I think like there's certain magic. Like on one conversation I had, like the woman, she said she's like very known journalist. She does this TV show on Amazon Prime about To Die For, and she interviews all these celebrities. And she said, like, get your story out there before somebody else does it. Like, speak up and just like have those quality conversations and bring them live. And that was like, like today we bringing live this conversation, we take it for granted, but like it's going to be there. It's going to sit on these like hard drives and in the cloud, and then like I know for our audience is mostly like creators that like they're pursuing a career, and like, they're trying to get their voices here out there and everything. What do you have to say to them? Like, in this very crowded internet about, hey, if you got to like, pay attention to something or like get good at this. I don't know. I'm right now. I'm like,
I think I know what the question is. Yeah. I would say like don't try to be something you're not. Just be who you are, and then like rise with that. You know what I mean? Like that is it. Like if you're gonna lean into who you already are, it's gonna fulfill you, and then people see that. People see when you're having a good time at a party. They see it in your face, and it's contagious. Versus like, oh my God, I don't know, this isn't me. I'm going to pretend to be something else. Like, no, just be yourself and then go for it and like double down on that.
So. Yeah. I think like originality is something like we all appreciate. And when somebody really come true to themselves and articulate that, it's like very powerful. It's
and we're more original than we think. Well, that's again, a lot of this stuff is double-edged sword stuff where like a lot of us think that we're more original than we are. But like also we do all have very specific things to offer. I think, if we can really just be comfortable and be ourselves and honor who we are, and then lean into it and then develop and continue sharpening your knife. Yeah, that'll lead to good stuff. I feel like, now
I'm going to like ask you something like I've always been curious about, and like I've never asked it before, but when you're like into the like setting a film, you got the script, everything, and you have this idea in your mind about who should be acting on the role. How you pick up this, like how does that happen? Like when you're like, okay, this is the person, and not getting like, too hooked up on like it's got to be good looking or whatever. It's like, oh, they're going to play the character, and perhaps they're not even in the character. Like I have no idea how the process is. It's a good question. But or the mindset on.
I love casting. I love the casting process. It's one of my I've always said this. It's one of my favorite parts of making a movie. And a lot of times it's surprising in the best of ways, like how you wrote it or how whatever you were seeking out for a certain character. Somebody can walk in the room and you can be like, oh, this is different but better. And then like there's a moment where it's like, I need somebody else to convince me that this person isn't the character. You know what I mean? And so, excuse me. And man, it's like you get really, really, really excited when you find that person that feels like that gets the character more than you get it. You know what I mean? And and it also brings a freshness to it. And other times, like I'll write a character specifically for an actor that I already know and build it out that way. And then other times I'll write a character, or like, we need to try to go out for somebody that has like a familiar face, and that might cost a little extra money, but it'll help get the rest of the money for the movie. Do you know what I mean? So like, it just depends. But I think the best part about casting is like whenever you keep it like as authentic as possible, when you find somebody that's like so great in the room, in the casting room, or somebody sends through a tape and you're like, oh my God, you weren't this or that in my mind, but now this is your part. Because I don't know, does that answer your question? Like it can go a few different ways, but it's all about just like, how do you respond when you see that person? It, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see. It reminds me like when this like movie, The Holdovers, actually they were like
Oh,
casting,
love it.
and this guy, like like the main character, I don't remember his name, but like
Yeah. He was a
Dominic
non-actor, right?
something. Yeah, he was like he never acted, and apparently like the guy's like he's made for it, he's built for it. He's like, oh, I just did it like in school part time. I'm not sure if that's just like a story
No,
to make it more interesting, or if it's real, but the kid
I
was
believe that.
impressive.
I believe that, and I think even actor for hire. You brought it up, and I don't. I'm all about getting some love for that movie. It's based on like my friend Jesse's real life, and like it's like a Seinfeld approach where, yeah, they're all acting and saying the lines that I wrote, but I'm looking at a poster right now as I talk. By the way, I just pulled it out of the garage, and it's all about just like it's like 50% real life, 50% exaggeration. But like they're acting, but they're not, and it's like there's such value in like someone, I don't want to say playing a version of themselves, but like or even someone who's new to it that doesn't overthink, kind of like a kid. They don't have the self-awareness, that like somebody who's been in 40 films and has all these insights and all this. That's valuable too, but it's different. There's value in like someone that's new to something. You know what I mean? You ever done something for the first time and you find yourself really good at it, and then you almost feel like you get worse the more you do it sometimes?
Podcast.
Do you know what I mean? I think yeah. I think that's like that, where it's like you're so excited and so lacking of awareness that you're just doing it, and so you're in the moment more. So maybe that kid from Holdovers was doing that. I don't know. I love that movie, by the way. It was like my favorite movie of last year.
Like I think like right now the only way for me to like get the best out of this conversation is forgetting like we're being recorded.
And it takes a minute. Yeah, I mean, that's like it's good to like every time. Half the time I'm talking, I'm like, oh, I'm fucking talking again. Here again. But it's like you try to just like get in those little grooves, right? And that guy's name is Dominic Sessa.
Exactly. What a publicity we just made the guy. It's great.
Yes.
Yeah. His name coming out of your mouth, like that's something. One question, far from the last one to wrap this up, because I know you don't have the forever time, and I want to be mindful of your time. And also, like, you gotta like give us like a little, secret sauce on how we get one of these posters of yours. Like, I definitely want.
Which poster do you want?
These one are like the ones like the true collectibles. In my case, I think actor for hire, like we'll have like
God,
we'll make it
here,
go on
look
the
at
wall.
Let me grab this.
I love it. Like it's beautiful. It says coming soon. That is like coming soon to us.
I mean, I think I have one of those. I could just send you one.
That would be
also,
I would really love that. I think.
Yeah. I will. What else? So
I was gonna the question before. Oh, you wanted to ask me? Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Though. I forgot. You go.
So going back to like the full questions I said before wrapping up here, like, Forte production. Forte Pictures.
Forte Pictures, yeah.
Yeah, Forte Pictures. What's the type of customer? Like, what's the budget? How they approach you? Like, what? Because, like, of course, like, you're not taking all projects. You select. What exactly is that selection looks like?
Okay.
What are
I love good questions. That it's developed, of course, and this is something also that I think ties into, I don't know, like something I've learned that's really helped me somewhat recently. Is, you start out by taking what you can get, not everything, but things that have a decent budget that you feel like you can do a good job at. You don't want to take something that you don't feel like you can do a good job at, of course, because then it's going to come back to get you. But then you get to a point where it's like, oh, maybe 10 grand for a music video is not enough. Not for what this person wants. You know what I mean? Like, what am I doing here? Once you break it down. And so I think the big thing for me was to realize when to say no to projects. and to focus on things that I'm going to be motivated enough to do based on the budget, but also excited enough to try to figure out if it's a big challenge, like, because there is a certain thing of like a challenge does excite me, and I want to always surpass somebody's expectations. I want to like surprise them with like how much better than they thought it could ever be, and so because my dad had he has his own business and he's worked for himself, and I think subconsciously he always does great work, and the value of word of mouth and people actually loving your end result is like everything. And so not taking any shortcuts with that. So I guess to answer your question, what kind of projects right now? I mean, it's been like a lot of repairing, a lot of like a lot of post-production, because a lot of people don't know what that world looks like. Or like they kind of have a screenplay, they know how to film a movie, but then when they get into post-production, they're like, okay, we got to edit it. But you're not even done with the movie then. You have to like figure out how to deliver it, how to do all the boring stuff, how to do the sound mix, how to get the color correction, how to, re-edit, how to all the contracts, how to deliver the film to the festivals and the distributors. So I do a lot of that where it's good paying. I don't know, like this. Do I want to tell the budgets? I mean,
maybe not, because like maybe sometimes you have a good, but I mean, like
leave it up to the imagination.
But like sometimes like people disregard how much effort is behind all this, right? Like how much does it require for a good movie? So like maybe you can list those things. You want a good movie, this is what it requires.
Yes, as a producer, whether it be producing through A to Z or post-producing P to Z, whatever. You gotta like wake up and go to bed with that project until it's done. You don't get the clock out. Doesn't mean you work all day, but you got to work a couple of times randomly throughout the week. I'm still dealing with a short film that we produced a year ago. We shot it a year ago this week, I think. And, and so like, you got to get what you can get, and you got to really think about how if you're producing, you got to think about how much time you're going to put in, and, anyways, so what was the question?
I think like the main requirements of a recipe for like a good movie, because sometimes people cut this, that. It's like,
yes, I think understanding how to tell a story, like whatever kind of story that might be, but really understanding how to tell a story, not pretending like you do, not like telling half of a story. No, know how to tell a story, and then once you figure out what story you want to tell and how you want to tell it, then like focus on the pacing and the rhythm of that story. You know what I mean? Like second part, like focus on the, whether it feels slow or fast or whatever your intention wants to be. Like I would say that, like that's the key. Because no matter what project it is, if you know how to tell a story, that everything stems from that, you know what I mean? And and then you can really do a lot of good work once you kind of think in those terms.
Good storytelling is definitely one of the biggest. I think like if you got that talent and storytelling, like you got the world. Like and storytelling today is everything.
I've been focusing on getting better at storytelling since I was like 14, though. You know what I mean? Like it's always, as soon as I realized, we're always all telling stories. Even the way you structured this podcast, you did it in a way where it's like, this is the structure. And so I think once you actually take the time to learn, like how different story genres and story for all that stuff, like then you can like really do some damage. So it's like a secret ingredient. That's the secret ingredient, and that separates the men from the boys. I think where it's like or whatever the it separates the wannabes from the real people because you can. That's the most valuable thing. Even a 30-second commercial, you know what I mean? They're telling stories.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
I think like one of the things, and I'm not sure if you agree with this, but I was reading some books. I love books about science, and I love book about like psychology and like, all about the mind and neuroscience and like, and I was watching once this YouTube series, The Century of the Self, Adam Curtis. I also mentioned on another conversation like yesterday for dinner. Brilliant. It explains exactly public relationships and how the word marketing became a thing, right? Like starting selling things, dresses, and telling consumers they got to consume to shape an identity, and how actually the insurance industry had to shape their algorithm around it. And fascinating. I'll
Yeah,
recommend it out
truly.
there because it really explains like the evolution of people's brain as consumers, and with it, like I mean, it stopped with like 2010, and of course, like from 2010 ahead is when all this social media thing
Yeah.
happened. So
Yeah.
I would have
Yeah. Yeah.
loved for Adam Curtis to have continued that work, but I'm fascinated about all this, and storytelling, it's not about, oh, I got a story, you got to listen to it. It's almost like catching that person's attention where they feel that they're part of it in a way, and you let them
Sure.
complete the blanks, and even though they're not
Yes.
blanks. Do you think that's a
Yeah.
technique, or like it's
Yeah.
something
Well,
like
again, I ain't trying to promote this guy's book again here, but for a second time, this is what it's all about. This right
hook
here,
point?
Hook Point by Brendan
Yeah.
Kane. You're welcome, Brendan. Um, but it's good. It's like I feel like I'm watching Mad Men when I read it. Kind of, you remember Mad Men, the show, my favorite TV show ever, where like it's
I
like Mark.
love Batman. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's my number
Yes,
one.
yes.
Side note, number one show. Anyways, but I feel like it's going back to how it was then, where like the talent, what do you say, the creative and the marketing person were kind of under the same umbrella. I don't think it's been like that for a while. Now it's kind of coming back to that, where basically when you talk about like content, you also have to almost talk about marketing at the same time, especially with films. Like there's a lot of great, like it goes back to your question about why do so many great films get unnoticed while so many crappy ones do. Well, it depends on what distributor is putting in how many marketing dollars for that. You know what I mean? Like you don't know about a movie if you don't know about a movie, but if they put $40 million into marketing, you're probably going to know about that movie, and you're probably going to maybe check it out. But so, anyways, it's like hand in hand. Same with the social media person. It's like you understanding having some content is one thing, but also knowing how to market and get yourself out there, like in tandem, is it's a requirement
Yeah.
now. You know.
At Olyn, we have this very strong belief that, like there's this powerful network effect against the algorithm that like something that has been recommended to you, it's much more valuable than something that is being marketed to you. And then like how you can mix those two to
Yeah.
get to the desirable audience. And it's a beautiful thing in the world, and mostly on the internet, that like anybody's like very reachable. And I think like COVID even proved more so, right? And
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I just started doing this podcast like 6 weeks ago, and we're already number two for in the U.S. for like film interview podcast. Like, what? How? And
I
all I did
mean,
was just like buy, email some people, buy a. All I did was a lot of work, but also just had a strong idea, and and a good like concept. I think nothing crazy, but just simple, and I was very niche about it too. Like I know not everybody's going to care about filmmakers talking about filmmaking. But the ones that this is the podcast I would listen to, like past, present, feature with Marcus Mizelle. And so like it's like I think you have a stronger voice when you're saying something specific versus trying to appease everybody, right? So
well, you got another very active listener to your podcast, I gotta say.
yes, thank you, thank you.
Like I think like you have right now more responsibility than ever to bring up those creative voices out there and say like, hey, what is it a good film, and what's filmmaking? And for those that don't know,
Yeah, I
what's
think
behind the
so.
scenes, what's happening?
Just having more filmmaker appreciation, not even just film, but filmmaker. Because the thing is, we're lacking culture. We used to have more film culture, which then provides film support, when it comes to the consumer. Like we used to go to Blockbuster, the video store, and see if the films were there that we wanted. And if, whether they were or not, you'd run into people and talk about stuff, or like, buying movies like DVDs or going, whatever, like, the magazines that used to come out, like going to the whatever. You get the point. I think it's still out there, but it's like how do you wrangle and like find kind of more communities that you can I don't know, consistently like tap into. And I think podcast made sense. Like, how do I do that? Let me just hit up filmmakers that are at the premiere festivals, and let me ask them the questions that you're asking me. Like, what's your process? How did you get here? And da 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 da. What's next for you? And it's been very, very, very fulfilling, to say the least. So
And it also it's a good tool to be reminded about what if you were the one having to answer all these questions, right? Like
totally, to
yeah.
flip it
So
around.
like I think when people get in front of a mic, they don't really acknowledge anybody like how much that means. And for me, it's very beautiful that it gets to be recorded and it gets to stay there, and now people can like say, hey, this made a difference for me when I spent time listening to it. So like
Same.
I think like right now, to wrap it up, because Marcus, as he said, like the problem with me is that if I'm in a good conversation, I will not end it, and I'll be like, okay, what's
I'm
next?
the
Shall we
same
go?
way. Same.
So like I'm really curious about for you to like make and take as much time as you need for this, but you gotta like close your eyes and describe us. Who's Marcus Mizelle in 10 years?
I gotta close my eye. Okay, 10 years.
Figuratively.
Oscar-winning Marcus Mizelle in 10 years is in his house. I'm being materialistic when I say this, but this is part of my dream, though. I want to live in the hills of Hollywood and just like look out into the city and be inspired, super duper, as inspired as possible with my space that I'm in. So I can continue to do what I'm doing right now, but to do it 5x, 10x, like do it better, and I'm very happy and content in a way, on a base level, a foundational way, as far as where I'm at now, except I'm also as hungry as ever because I want to do it in a bigger way, always bigger, always better, and always like, thankfully, the older I've gotten, the more I want to actually share and help people and like offer something that's good beyond just my own, selfish reasons or whatever, and it's just nice to be able to feel good about what I'm doing, and I want to just get better at that and better and bigger, have a bigger reach and have a bigger effect with what I'm doing in 10 years.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that you're not going to exchange this world for the metaverse, and like it.
I mean, who knows what you're talking about 10 years from now? Jeez, it's like I'll be talking to some like robot or AI on a podcast or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
What do you think like 10 years is going to be like? What's the craziest thing that's going to be the normal thing in 10 years?
I think things are getting better. I think in 10 years, people are going to be very comfortable with like what all this tech has been trying to do for us and make the most out of it. We're going to be more connected as ever and organized in that connection, be a little more digital free, in terms of like everybody's going to passively make money on every single little thing they do in life. And it's not all about spending. And,
Got you.
And then like as for AI, I think like there's one philosopher like Heidegger that he said thinking is not knowledge. So if you think like AI is being fed just with knowledge, AI knows what it knows, but AI cannot create something like you're like, where did that come from? Like how
it has to be prompts, right?
Yeah, I remember like there was this scene in the Tibet movie. Oh my god, like 7 Years in Tibet.
Brad
I remember. I recommended one to a friend, and she's like, "Oh, but it looks like a long movie." I'm like, "It's not 7 year movie. It's like a short movie. Watch it." But it's like it lasts
Just
like 2
watch
hours. Something.
Yeah.
But I was struck with like that. Like he's a kid and he has this nightmare, and he tells Brad Pitt, like the guy's like, "I had this nightmare, but I don't know why I had it, because I don't know why my mind can conceive such atrocity. I've never, right? And it's that thing, like, well, and he dreams about like one of the towns, being hit by like the government and like taking down for like the dictatorship of China. And it's that thing, right? It's like how my mind came up with that. Like, I don't see myself as like knowing myself, being able to come up with these ideas, good or bad, right? So that's why I think like this is the beautiful thing about creation that comes from a place that you would have not thought of, or like it doesn't come up from a place of overthinking or from blockage. It comes from a place of letting go. And AI is like seeing the reality from one eye, but like the beauty of the human being brain is like there's so many angles to look at things, and yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's so good. I think also just figuring out how to just do and not think and letting go, you do find just good things happening immediately, and you find peace in that way. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I've just now figured out how to do that. I think. I don't want to get cocky, but I think I'm doing pretty okay.
Well,
like
you're allowed to be cocky, so.
Well, but it's just more of like, just this load off. I'm not trying to prove. And another thing about getting some Emmys is like, you don't feel like you have to prove anything. Or I don't feel like I have to prove anything anymore, which is silly to even say. You don't need an Emmy to not have to prove anything, but that's how I felt. So I think that's
maybe that's when the best of you starts like coming out.
That's what I think. Yeah, it's like, cool, now back to work. let's take this and use it, and let's keep making some great stuff here. Yeah, no, for sure.
Amazing.
And then AI, I think I'm more positive than I even give myself credit for. I think with AI, which is I think there's going to be some great tools that come out of that will just make better output for sure.
Marcus, I gotta say, like, this has been an amazing conversation. I would have loved to keep it going and going and going, but I don't want to take too much of your time. That said, I'm really excited about Marcus 10 years from now, wherever it is, Oscars, up in the Hill of
Thank you very
Hollywood.
much.
If that happens, like, I hope like I get an invitation, at
Yeah,
least to
let's
see
do
the
a
view.
podcast. And let's do a podcast in 5 years just to check back in. You never know; it could happen sooner.
Yes, and you know the future is bright, and I think like only things can only get better because like that's what time is all about.
You need hope. You need to be positive and have hope because it's like it'll get you places. It'll get you places. Mic drop.